Kakadosh Boker or Bekiim Bahalacha for day 6. We are Siman 25, Siman Kafhei, page 17. We're starting the Siman. So we finished the introduction, the preface, and now we're starting the Siman. Mitzvat aseh min Torah leaniach tefillin shel yad v'shel rosh bechol yom. There's a mitzvah min Torah to put on tefillin, whether it's going to be the arm tefillin or the head tefillin, every single day except for Shabbat and Yom Tov. V'aover al zeh. If somebody is going to transgress this and not put on the tefillin, he's mevatel a mitzvah taseh. He's annulling a mitzvah taseh. Ve'onsho chamur, and he has a terrible punishment, a very severe punishment. Let's see the footnote number 1. See the preface of the Siman, the description of the punishment is likely to be administered to somebody who does not fulfill the mitzvah tefillin, and a discussion did right identifying who is the category of kakafta de lo manach tefillin, a head that does not wear the tefillin. If you remember, it was if it was once upon in the life, if it was every single day, if it was the guy was lazy. You remember all the machlokot. This will be discussed in more detail also below in Siman 37. It was likewise explained in the preface that if someone fulfills the mitzvah tefillin, he's rewarded for fulfilling 8 commandments, and if he does not fulfill it, he's going to be right disobeying 8 commandments. Also, the issue of the whether the tefillin shel yad and shel rosh are going to be one mitzvah or 2 different mitzvot. According to some Rishonim, if someone fails to put on the tefillin, he's guilty of transgressing the mitzvah lo taseh besides the mitzvah lo taseh, mitzvah taseh. This is because the Torah says v'shamarta techukah moadah miyamim yamima, which means you have to observe, right, this statute, right, in its right time every single day. So we're going to learn from here, right, that there's no mitzvah to wear tefillin at night, since the verses emphasize the word day, yamim yamima. The Rambam ruled that if someone wears the tefillin at nighttime, he transgresses the commandment of this pasuk, which specifies that there's a mitzvah to do during the day, not during the nighttime. So since the pasuk is actually using the word of v'shamarta, we know shamarta is a lo taseh. Shmirah is like Isham Elecha, right? Shamor and Zachor. Zachor is the positive commandments. Shamor are the negative commandments. So see the commentary of the Bet Yosef 7:29. According to Tosfot, the person transgresses the mitzvah lo taseh if he wears tefillin during the nighttime. But if someone wears it during the day, he does not transgress this lo taseh. Right? So he says that Rav Chida discussed this issue at length. See more later on. Okay? Fine. Next. Okay? Okay. Halacha bet. Mitzvah tefillin nohege b'ma'aretz v'chutz haaretz. Tefillin applies whether it's going to be in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz Haaretz in the diaspora. It says when you're going to the land of the Kanani, it's not considered a mitzvah to do about it. It has nothing to do with the land of Israel. Meaning, even without the land of Israel, you still need to come and put on tefillin. Let's look at the footnote number 2. This is the Gemara teaching Kiddushin Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Rashi added that there are several accounts in the Gemara where the rabbis who reside in Babylonia still study with tefillin all day long. The Gemara, however, offers no explanation why does this not contradict this pasuk. It just says that it doesn't apply, but why? The Yerushalmi over points out and he says, "Vavatem me'era me'alatz tova asher Hashem noten lechem samtem ukshartem." What does that mean? You're going to be driven out of the land, and you're going to be fasten them a sign, meaning even though you're not on your land. Okay? Because that's what it says. It says, "Vavatem me'era me'alatz tova." You're going to be destroyed from the land. You're going to be like pushed out of the land, and then still, v'samtem et v'ra'ileh ukshartem otam leot. So therefore, you still have to put on tefillin. The Shita lo noda lemi, which is an anonymous Rishon, cited Rabbi Avraham bar David, that he explained, which is Ravad, that he says, explaining that the Torah places the command of wearing tefillin together with the mitzvah of redeeming the firstborn donkeys. Why? Think about it. Peter rechem, besides tefillin. Why? The mitzvah of redeeming the firstborn of the livestock was practiced while our ancestors lived in the wilderness, right? So therefore, it also applies. That's why today also it applies. Meaning the Peter rechem, Peter chamor, still applies even in Chutz Haaretz. So too with tefillin. Alternatively, explain that the mitzvah tefillin written in the Torah next to Torah study. But it says, "Vayalecha leot al yedecha uzikarom enenecha leman tiyeh Torah Hashem beficha." Torah Hashem beficha means that you learn Torah. So if the putting on the tefillin is beside the Torah applies everywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where. So therefore, it applies everywhere. So those are just a few different reasons how we see that it applies even in Chutz Haaretz. It's either because the pasuk says "Vavatem me'era me'aretz tova" and still you're going to put on talit tefillin, or because it's juxtaposed to the Peter Chamor, and Peter Chamor applies whether it's in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz Haaretz, or it's juxtaposed to Torah study, and Torah study applies anywhere in the world, and therefore also the tefillin applies to anywhere in the world. Halacha Gimel. What happens if you don't have the money to buy tzitzit tefillin? You don't have to start asking for tzedakah to buy them. But you have to ask Bnei Yisrael to borrow them, or you have to come and you have to do anything possible in order to get them. Right? So you have to do whatever it is, employ every means possible. Number 3, right? Footnote number 3. This is the ruling of the Olat Tamid, based on the Talmud Yerushalmi. Okay, the Achronim concurred with this ruling, right? Whether it's going to be the Eshel Avraham Botchach, that the Torah does not expect the person to forfeit his personal dignity in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Accordingly, if someone is willing to expose himself to shame, begging door for door for the sake of mitzvah, he's allowed to do so. But it's not considered an instance of going overboard unnecessarily for the mitzvah, because again, this is something good. Furthermore, anyone who supports his material needs by begging door to door must do so to obtain funds for tefillin as well. He cannot argue that he does not wish to shame himself further. Meaning, if a person is already asking for tzedakah, so he's obligated to ask for tzedakah for tefillin. But if he never asked tzedakah in his life, and he's not going to ask, so he's not obligated to start asking for tzedakah to fulfill the mitzvah tefillin. He would still obligated to borrow it, to do whatever he can, but he's not obligated to ask for tzedakah, to be like a beggar in order to ask for tefillin. What about tefillin in contrast to other mitzvot? Regarding several mitzvot, Halacha demands a person to beg. Shulchan Aruch brings down that if somebody has no money, no food to buy, he has to beg door to door in order to purchase things for Shabbat. Having light in one's home or for the candles of Shabbat is fundamental of Oneg Shabbat. In fact, the Hechal brings down that one must even sell his shirt in order to get the money for the mitzvah. The Shulchan Aruch also ruled that if someone who depends on others' charities for livelihood must sell his shirt, borrow money, and engage in menial labor in order to buy enough wine for the 4 cups of the night of the Seder. Shulchan Aruch says that even if somebody needs to, they have to do it for the Chanukiah also as well. So you have night of Pesach, you have Chanukiah, you have Leil Shabbat. So 1 second. So why don't you have tefillin? All these mitzvot were instituted by the sages. The Torah does not obligate us to that. Meaning, there's no mitzvah to say doraita for Arba Kasot or for Chanukah. It's not doraita or Leil Shabbat. So what's going on? But he says the halacha still demands you to do it. The mitzvah, the tefillin, on the other hand, is a mitzvah obligation, yet the halacha is not obligated to do so. Why? It's illogical. So he says, the Mishabra addressed this question. He brings down the Morutzia. He asked it, and he could not find the satisfactory. He couldn't find a good answer. So he says he then pointed out that it's possible that even the Gemara Yerushalmi agrees that one should beg for tefillin. One should actually beg for money. The passage in the Tamid is not discussing the mitzvah wearing tefillin, but rather the mitzvah of making tefillin. According to Yerushalmi, the fashioning of the item used for mitzvot, whether tefillin, tzitzit, sukkah, is a mitzvah in itself, and therefore you make a bracha. Regarding the mitzvah, though, of making tefillin, the Yerushalmi states that it is not necessary to beg to procure the material necessary to make the tefillin. It might be, though, that one is obligated to beg or sell one shirt in order to purchase a set of tefillin, right, in order to fill the mitzvah. So the Bahalacha concludes that even if one is allowed to be lenient ruling right of the Olat Tamid, one must still borrow a set of the tefillin every single day to fulfill the mitzvah. He repeated this ruling also in Machane Yisrael. Most Achronim cited the Olat Tamid as halacha in practice. The Igrot Moshe also concurred with the Mishabra that one must at least make the effort to borrow it every single day. The Kaf HaChaim, however, he comes and he wrote that only one should try to borrow the tefillin in the halacha, that one should try to borrow the tefillin. It doesn't say you must. Right? The Lachabura pointed out that it appears from this that one is not obligated to make extreme efforts to borrow tefillin, unless, right, unlike the more stringent position of the Mishabura and the Igrot Moshe. Okay? The Machane Yisrael pointed out, remember, Machane Yisrael is the sever of the Chavetz Chaim on, for the people in the diaspora. So he says, pointed out that it is often problematic to rely on borrowing tefillin from other people. If the head sizes are different, it might be impossible. It's therefore you just recommended try to do whatever you can to afford to put, to get tefillin or whatever, relatives or whatever, in order to buy tefillin. Okay, the last halacha on the top, if someone has the ability to limit his budget so he could slowly save up money to get tefillin, he's obligated to do so. Look in the footnote number 4. This warning is brought down in the Ahavat Chesed, which is again the 7